Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to do some vintage editing in Photoshop. So a way to replicate an older photo, like something that was taken with film or something that you found at home. We can give that same feel to new photos. As with everything in Photoshop, there are always a lot of different ways to go about this. This is just one way that I found works pretty well. So I've got a photo here of some fall colors on leaves, and we're going to make this look vintage or older. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is add an adjustment layer, and I'm going to use a hue saturation adjustment layer. Vintage photos usually have faded colors. One easy way to do that is just pull your saturation down. If you go all the way down, it turns to black and white. We don't want that. Usually anywhere between about 25 and 30. Maybe a little lower will do the trick depending on how much color you have to begin with. Okay. Second step is I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer. And first thing I'm going to do is grab the bottom point over here, and I'm going to lift this up a bit. Okay, and you'll notice that if I go back and forth, what that does is it changes the black point on there and gives it a little bit of a faded look. Okay, so that makes it look a little bit faded and a little bit older. I do want to add a little bit of contrast in here, and the S curve is a good way to do that. Lots of film used to have higher contrast than digital photos do, so I'm going to create an S curve. I'll click a point down here about a third of the way up and come down just a bit. And then click a point almost up at the upper 1/3 here and come up just a little bit. Okay, and you can see that's without the curves editing, and that's with there. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is add a solid color adjustment layer, and what this will do is change how all the colors blend together. You have a couple different options for vintage colors, or for vintage editing. You can use either a kind of pinkish, reddish sort of color like this. You can use a light blue, which is a cyan, and that would help mimic something called a cyanotype, or cooler colors. Or you can use something in the kind of orangish, pinkish area, kind of a salmon-y color. And that's what I'm going to try on this one to start with. So I'm just going to drag my color slider down to that area, and then you can fine-tune your selection with your color picker. That works for me. I'll click OK. All right, and it doesn't look good yet, right? So we have to change to blending mode. And depending on your picture, different blending modes are going to do different things. Okay, so either light and screen, overlay may work well, soft light may work well. Okay, it's really, really heavy right now, so next thing I'm going to do is lower the opacity down. Okay, until that looks a little bit more natural. We want to see the color, but we don't want the color we don't want to see more color than we see picture. Okay, and once you've lowered that opacity, then you can play around again with how these blending modes work. Okay, and in this case, I think I might go with, let's see here, I might go with lighten here. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit more though. Okay. Last thing I want to do is add a bit of a vignette on here. My preferred way of doing that is this. I'm going to add a new blank layer. I'm going to go up to Edit and then down to Fill, and I'm going to fill this in with white. So just under Contents, select white. Okay. You're going to go up to Filter and then Lens Correction. Move me out of the way here. There you go. And in Lens Correction, I'm going to go over to the Custom tab. And then I'm going to come down and pull the vignette down to probably somewhere around 30. The lower you go, the heavier the vignette it creates on there. You can always back this off with layer adjustments later, so don't be afraid to go too heavy. It's easier to change heavier than not heavy enough. I'm just going to leave it at about 48 on this picture. Click OK. And just like the previous step, now we're going to change the blending property from normal down to multiply. And you can see that'll add that vignette around the edges. I think that's a little bit heavy, so I'm going to pull the opacity down until it looks a little bit more natural and not so noticeable. I think right about 79–80% works fine in this one. Okay, and now you can see that if I pull my history menu up, we went from this, which is a full color, pretty bold, vibrant digital photo, to this, which obviously takes on an older, more vintage indie classic feel.